we are just coming off our preview of the 2025 season. And now we get the opportunity to do what we do on a regular basis, and that is preview PGA Tour events. This week, of course, Pebble Beach. And this is going to be a fast forward edition. So let's keep in mind a few important things. It's not like the old days, which was just a few years ago, where you had, a wall-to-wall pro-am stuff. It's only a couple of days. Also, no 3 courses to deal with, just the 2, Pebble and Spyglass. And looking at the yardage, you've got Pebble, of course, is only, still 6,800 only? And Spyglass is a little over 7,000?
Yeah, Pebble is just a shade under 7,000. It's like 6,950, 6,980, something like that. And Spyglass is just a shade over 7,000, like you say, maybe 7,025 yards, something like that. So only about 100 yards separates the 2 courses.
And of course, it's a Poana green, so keep that in mind, just like we talked about last week. So that's important. And some similar courses that went into your handicapping this week, Brady. I know, I think 3 are on the PGA Tour, or maybe 4. We've got Silverado, TPC Southwind, and TPC Summerlin. And I know there's a couple of more. I know one is something that you see in the rotation in Canada, the RBC Canadian Open, correct? I believe that is Hamilton.
Yeah. Silverado, where they play the Pro Core, used to be the Fortinet Championship up in Napa. Those are Poana greens up there as well. Not 100% Poana like we have here at Pebble and like we had last week at Torrey Pines, but certainly a Poana blend. And we've seen a lot of crossover success. Again, Northern California golf, similar grass species, and you see a lot of the same players have success. And then Port Royal Golf Club, where they play the Bermuda Championship. Similar layout, coastal golf like we have here this week along the Monterey Peninsula there, Carmel Bay, is Pebble Beach. So some similarities there. And then TPC Southwind, where they play the FedEx St. Jude Championship, very small greens. Pebble Beach has the smallest greens on the PGA Tour. These putting surfaces are very small. They're hard to hit in regulation. And that's kind of similar to what we see at TPC Southwind. Hard greens to hit. They're very small. TPC Summerlin, wide fairways, kind of similar routing and layout. You do see some crossover success. And then you're right. A couple of the courses that show up consistently on the Canadian Open rotation, Hamilton Golf and Country Club and St. George's Golf and Country Club, have seen a lot of crossover success with guys that have done well at Pebble Beach. So those were the 6 courses I used as corollaries this week.
Here are some notes to keep in mind. Last year, the first year of the signature event formation, the event was shortened to only 54 holes. So you might remember that, and that does matter. So matter of fact, I'm not sure Wyndham Clark wins if it wasn't for that. Not because he's not capable, but he had that huge round 3. And we just know it's so hard to come back from a really low score and the next day have something sustainable in that same area, especially on a golf course like this or in a field like this. So he really benefited from the doubt of not having to come back out in that 4th round.
No, you're exactly right. And it was disappointing to me because I can't remember who I had for that tournament. It wasn't Clark, but I had somebody that was going pretty well.
Was it Oberg?
No, it wasn't Oberg.
Okay.
I'd have to look at the leaderboard.
He was second. I know JT was 6th.
Might have been Sam Burns who was doing pretty well, if I recall.
He was 10th.
Yeah, he was okay. So he was close, but I had a guy that was not far off the pace, and I was just hoping if I could get that 4th round in, I might have a shot. But you're right, the weather just went really sideways. And hey, hats off to Wyndham Clark. He got it done.
Yeah. And he actually ended up with a 12 under par that day. And by the way, Dietrich was also in that mix. So I know you've
finished 4th. Yes.
Talked about him. Okay. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Also, there has not been a playoff in this event. And now remember, when you're handicapping, it's up to you. You've got, hey, I'm going to handicap Pebble, and you can do that, and you should do that. But you're also going to have to just take a look at the fact that the field shrunk last year because of the signature. So half the field almost. And again, everything else we talked about, 2 golf courses instead of 3. So there, you kind of handicap it and use it both. But in general, there has not been a playoff at all at Pebble since 2008. It's unbelievable that it hasn't been a playoff since 2008. And only 5 of the last 21 winners were victorious by 1 stroke. Incredible. Okay. Yeah. So now last year, Wyndham Clark was, but again, 3 rounds. So it's telling us that for whatever reason at Pebble, by the time you're there on Sunday towards the end, it's actually not very close, or it's not really, a 1 stroke or a playoff type of deal. And I'm not even sure what that's about.
Yeah, that's really hard to explain. It's just randomness. I've had good success at this golf tournament in the past. It was many years ago. I want to say this was maybe 6 years ago. I landed correctly on Phil Mickelson, who's had tremendous success at this golf course, at this golf tournament. It was a few years back. I think his last win on tour, Daniel Berger. I had Patrick Cantlay, who I think finished second. He was right there, top 3, had just come up short when Berger won it. And then one of my bigger hits just a few years ago, I got him at 66-1 when Tom Hoge won. So I've had some good success here at Pebble Beach. We'll see if that can carry on this year. But it was Jordan Spieth that was chasing down Tom Hoge, and you thought there might be a playoff there, but I used to actually attend this tournament years ago.
Oh,
I was there when Johnny Miller won it. I was there one time when Mark O'Meara won it. I grew up in the Bay Area and started my radio career in San Francisco and used to go down and cover the AT&T. And just one of the most gorgeous stretches of land you'll ever see anywhere in the world. I don't know why that is, but maybe it has to do with the Pro-Am. I have no idea why. Yeah. There's really no rhyme or reason.
No. Also, Americans have won 18 of the last 20 at Pebble and 78 of 84 all time.
That is kind of surprising, Greg, because, I have often picked European players here because this is a little bit of a links-ish style venue. Now it's not, you don't have the mounding and the hills and the same type of pot bunkers and all that type of stuff, but it's that coastal location where you get these seaside breezes, and a lot of Europeans. Shane Lowry has had great success here, who I know Jared landed on Shane Lowry this week. You've seen a lot of European players that have that links form have good success here at Pebble as well.
Keep in mind, though, 2 of the last 5 winners, we are talking about non-Americans. Justin Rose in 23 and Nick Taylor in 2020.
Okay. Yeah. And Rose absolutely fits that link style player mold.
Also, the last player to win at Pebble in his first appearance was Brett Ogle back in 1993. So it's been a long time since somebody has won and never played Pebble. And remember last week we told everybody, and it came true, that you're going to come from behind almost all the time at Farmers. Whoever gets off to the lead is not in a good situation. And all of that was true. The one trend that did change, though, or that did kind of buck the trend, was Harris English holding on to the lead after the 3rd round. That was not very normal, to have the lead going into the final round and winning at Farmers. Harris English was able to do that. But I bring that up because
Pebble, thank goodies he did.
Yeah. And it was only a 1-stroke lead, so it wasn't like he had a big lead.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is different. This is not a come from behind event. 8 of the last 15 winners started inside the top 5, including 6 who had the lead after round 1. But keep in mind, Clark was 50th at the end of the round, at the first round of last year. Of course, he had to have the big day on Saturday or the 3rd round, and we never had a final round. So yeah, this is a little bit different. And one of those where if you want to look, I always say live betting is awesome. I do live betting all the time in golf every week, but not as easy of an opportunity to grab long shots or players who are way back if you get off to a slow start at Pebble.
Yeah, one thing it doesn't necessarily change if you're looking at live betting on a Sunday or anything like that. But we do have a change the last 2 years here with this being a signature event. Monterey Peninsula Country Club is no longer a part of the rotation. Now it is this is similar to Torrey Pines, where they play the North Course. Every player gets around on the North Course on either Thursday or Friday. Every player is going to get around on Spyglass Hill on either Thursday or Friday. But then 3 out of the 4 rounds will be at Pebble Beach, and there's no cut. It's an 80-player limited field event, no cut. You used to have, you'd play with the amateurs for the first 3 days and have a 54-hole cut on Saturday. All that is in the past, and I prefer it this way. I don't tune in to watch Bill Murray. I'm trying to watch the pros play
Not
here.
anymore.
So a little bit more traditional event here the last couple of years at Pebble.
Okay, so let's get right to it. First, we're going to start with our picks. So let me post those up on the page here. And here we go. So here are, Brady, you've got outrights, you've got top 20, and you've got head-to-head. Of course, I stick with the outrights. The dollars are on the right for me. So I've got the dollar risk. And of course, Brady has the unit risk. We talked about that before. So, and we're going to go through this in just a little bit. But again, since we do have a little bit of a time difference here, I notice that on your picks, a little bit different from me, that even though we see some top players this week, including Scotty, and of course we've got McIlroy, you don't have anybody that is under 55-1 in your picks. Now, I will say this, I'm not surprised because, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but some of the players that are considered the favorites, when you take a look at the stats and you take a look at whether it's Poana, whether it's, whatever model that worked for this event does not particularly work or hasn't worked for some of these top players, including the fact that some of them haven't really had a lot of experience here, including the first 4 who are in the odds: Scheffler, McIlroy, JT, and Morikawa. They just haven't played here very much.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, we talked about the difference in this tournament versus the old version of the at&t Pebble Beach Pro-Am with, 3-course rotation and a 54-hole cut. A lot of these guys didn't want to partake in that. Rory McIlroy, Colin Morikawa, Scotty Scheffler, these guys never used to show up to Pebble. And it's cool that they have made it a signature event now and kind of made it a bit more of a traditional tournament because, hey, this is maybe the very most famous golf course in the entire world, right? It's probably top 5.
Yes.
And so it's cool to see the best players show up here. As opposed to the past where they really didn't. So you're right. A lot of these top players don't have a ton of experience at this golf course. And that's one of the reasons I didn't go their direction. The other thing is Scotty Scheffler at a very short price, anywhere from 4-1 to 5-1. We haven't seen him since last year. And I know we all know what he's capable of, but the injured hand over Christmas, and I don't know what we're going to get. And that combined with the lack of experience at this golf course and the short price, I didn't want to go there. Rory McIlroy, I wouldn't be surprised if he plays well here. And it's a price that's even higher than he is for some of the majors this year. But, he also played in the TGL on Monday night against Tiger in a great match. And now he's flying all the way across the country. He's getting here later than everybody else. I don't know if this is his first start on the PGA Tour this year. Is he ready to go? Justin Thomas,
bringing that up, Brady, and I should have thought about this too, and I'm pretty sure I remember this. I remember going through McIlroy's history. He does. I think the Honda, his win in the Honda, and I don't remember when that was. It might have been, I don't know, some time ago. But I think it was the first, it was the earliest in the calendar year that he had ever won a PGA Tour event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
that doesn't surprise me.
He does not play particularly his best earlier in the season. And yes, he's still playing events over in Europe. He was just couple of weeks ago, they were playing that DP2 Tour Championship and another Dubai event. I don't know if he was in that a few weeks ago, but yeah, that was something that I thought was very interesting. And I remember looking at that last year because I think maybe Jared had picked them in an event. And I went, all right, let me see. And then I remember looking at that and go, you know what? I can't believe it. Rory this is not his time of year.
He's typically not a good West Coast swing player at all. And he doesn't even typically play in many of the West Coast swing events. So, there's that plays into that statistic as well. He typically doesn't even show up hardly until we get to Florida. So, just another reason I didn't want to land on him. I took a hard look at Justin Thomas, and I know Jared landed on him. I love the form, but he hasn't played here a whole lot either.
No, twice.
Like we talked about Morikawa. Oberg was a guy I looked at, but I'm not sure if he's completely healthy. We know over the weekend at Torrey Pines, he was, suffering from illness. And so, eventually, and like I said in the preview program as well earlier, the first guy that really jumped out to me was Taylor Pendrith. And the second guy that really jumped out at me was Maverick McNeely, who's a guy that I kind of always look at when it comes to West Coast events because he grew up in the Bay Area, went to Stanford. He's played very well at Silverado. He's got a runner-up finish there at Silverado. He's got a couple of top 5 finishes here at Pebble, including a runner-up, I believe. He's got a runner-up and a 5th here at Pebble Beach. So, I mean, the guy is, California golf, California born and raised. He's all about California. He's a tremendous putter and is very familiar with the Poa annua surface. So Maverick McNeely's a guy, especially at Pebble Beach, I always take a hard look at. And with the recent win, with the resurgence in form, he made sense to me. And so those were kind of the first guys that kind of, ticked on my radar this week. And they both happened to be, 50, 60 to 1. The guys that were less than that, I just didn't really have a strong, conviction about. And that's where I ended up.
I think that's why I think this is a really good opportunity. It doesn't happen awesome in signature events because you're going to have everybody's looking for the big money. But the fact is, if you're looking for a longer shot to win a signature event, this might be the best chance you're going to get.
That's a great point because the big studs in this field typically don't play this golf course a whole lot. No. So, it's the other guys, the longer shots, generally speaking, are more familiar with this venue.
Let's continue going through your picks. So again, you talked about Pendrith and McNeely, and go through some of your other picks.
Yeah, and after those two, I really had to grind and try and find some guys. And McIntyre was a guy that made sense for me. And Robert McIntyre got him at 65 to 1. He's like what I was talking about earlier, that European type player that seems to do well on a Linksys type design. He's finished first and second in consecutive years at the Scottish Open. He's done well at the British Open before. He won in 2024 at Hamilton Golf and Country Club, the Canadian Open, which is one of our correlated courses. He's played well so far this year. He's gotten off to a good start this year. Tremendous putter and scrambler. Sometimes this kind of does turn into a putting contest, and that's what we really saw with Wyndham Clark last year. But outside of the putting, you've got to hit a ton of greens in regulation because I mentioned the smallest greens on the PGA Tour. They're hard to hit in regulation. If you're hitting a ton of them in regulation, you're going to have a big advantage. And when you're missing them, you've got to be a tremendous scrambler. And Robert McIntyre, is a tremendous scrambler. So, I thought he made a lot of sense for a number of different reasons this week. And then beyond that, I went to Victor Hovland, who we haven't heard from in a long time. We know, it was a couple of years ago that he was the FedEx Cup champion. He was just absolutely on a heater at the end of the year, won a couple times, was, looking like the best player in the world. And he was going to get ready to take down a major in the follow-up season. And he just did a 180 and he hasn't been the same since. We've seen flashes and it looks like it's started to come around, but the answer is still unknown. What we have seen not too long ago was in August at TPC Southwind, again, one of my correlated courses, where he finished runner-up to Hideki Matsuyama. So I thought that was a good sign. Not that long ago, a great finish, again, at a course that has some connections here in my mind to Pebble. Now, what else has he done at Pebble? In 2019, when they held the U.S. Open here, when Gary Woodland won, Victor Hovland finished 12th. In 2018, the year before that, he won the U.S. Amateur at where? At Pebble Beach. This guy has had success at this golf course in a big way. And, he played in an at&t Pro-Am here one time and finished 13th. So he has done extremely well at this golf course. And now you've got the guy who is ranked 9th in the world.
Sure.
At a price around 70 to 1. I've seen him anywhere from 50 to 70 to 1. I personally got 60. So you're talking Victor Hovland at 60 to 1 on a course that maybe he's had the most success at in his entire lifetime. I had to take a shot with it.
I've taken a few of those players for the same exact reason in this event. Yeah, there are some really good bargains, and he's clearly one of them.
Yeah, and you're getting him at a nice price because he hasn't been good as of late. But like I say, it wasn't that long ago, August, that he finished runner-up at a course that makes some sense. So we'll see if he can find it this week. He's going to find it again, and I just hope I'm right in guessing when. And then finally, I went with my guy, Thomas Dietrich, who I've been on for, this will be the second time this season. I played him at the Sony as well. I feel this guy is going to break through eventually. He's been, a number of top 10 finishes for many years on both the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour. Comes off of another good finish last week at Torrey Pines, where he finished 15th. He's a tremendous putter. He finished 4th here at Pebble Beach last year in another signature event. So, he's just a guy that, for a lot of different reasons, I believe makes sense. Again, he's finished 12th in Napa. He's been runner-up at the Bermuda, another correlated course for us, Port Royal Golf Club. So, like I say, Greg, Pendrith and McNeely were probably the guys that I really, jumped out at to me early. And then I really had to grind to try and find, a couple. I wanted to play 4 or 5 guys with a field of 80. Last week I landed on 8, which was a lot for me, but that was a full field, 156 or whatever. Now we've cut the field in half. So I didn't want to play 8 guys. So I wanted to land on 4 or 5. And those are my 5: Pendrith, McNeely, McIntyre, Hovland, and Dietrich.
Yeah, Hovland, I jumped all over him at the end of that year. It was so much fun when you jump on a player at the perfect time, just when they're on a roll. There's no better thing, because it's like taking a horse race, a horse, and you just ride him until he stops winning. But then the dreaded, well, I got to make some changes. I've got to be a little bit more. I think it was he wanted a little bit more power off the tee or whatever it was. And, when that happens, you don't know what's going to happen to the player. And this is what's happened. Like you said, maybe now is the time that he's finally getting it. But that's the thing that could be so dangerous, because he looked like he was ready to be player of the year the next year. I want to try. I can be better. And the players always say that to them. I can be a better player. Sometimes it works to their advantage and sometimes it doesn't. So we certainly hope it will eventually work into Victor's advantage, because it's just too good of a player, and we need more competitive players at the top to give players like Scottie Scheffler a run for their money.
Well, we know how good he is, and we saw how good he is at the PGA Championship last year, where he finished runner-up to Schauffele. He finished runner-up to Matsuyama in August at TPC Southwind.
Yep.
And just, I couldn't think of a better venue for him to get it right than where, Pebble Beach, where he's had so much success earlier in his career.
Makes a lot of sense. Why not? Especially with those odds. Now, if his odds were a lot lower than that, that's a different story. Sort of like what we were talking about with Max Homa. And once again, Max was awful last week. And his odds, even though you're getting better odds this week, it's like, why would you even waste your money on Max Homa the way he's playing? I don't care how good he is on the West Coast. There's something wrong with Max Homa's game. At this point in time, it does make a lot of sense. That's why I kind of did the same thing with players like even Wyndham Clark. That's why he's on my list. I'm getting 50-1 with the defending champ. And I know it was only 3 rounds, but he's good on POA. It seems to be his best surface, actually. He's just too good to be 50-1 as the defending champ in my mind. Also went back with Keegan Bradley. Both talked
playing
about
really well.
He's playing really well. So why jump off of him at 50-1? Day again, that's an easy one. He's made 14 of 14 cuts with 11 top 15s, 5 top 5s in a runner-up, and he's never won at Pebble, which is really strange considering how good he is. So maybe he can get that done this year. Cantlay is my top pick. Same thing, 7 of 7 cuts, 5 top 15s, and 2 top 5s. Hasn't won, believe it or not, as I said on the other show, since 2022. But there's a lot of things to like about Cantlay's game right now. 9 straight top 25s, 3 top 5s, coming off a 5th at the Amex, and also won the Shriners, one of your courses back in 2017. So you're getting 20-1 there. And as far as long shots, I think Beau Hossler is a no-brainer long shot for me here. 14th last year. In his last 3 years, he's finished 14th, 11th, and 3rd. And he's also done really well. Taking a look at how he's ranked on POA greens over his last 12 rounds, he's ranked 2nd. So anytime you can get that combination, especially on these types of greens at 65-1, I decided to go that route. And then the other long shots were Poston, Fowler, and then a few other big long shots like Davis, Mitchell, and Hubbard. But Poston coming off 20th here last year, also a Shriners winner very recently, of course, in October.
Yep.
Fowler, I've talked about him. I think his game is coming on. And by the way, he's 7th in the last 12 rounds as far as putting on POA, and also 1st in his last 4 rounds. So he's coming in putting pretty well on this surface. And that could be, and he's got 4 straight top 25s, including a 4th at Zozo. Meanwhile, you've got Davis is someone that I think is interesting because he's played well on some of the courses you talked about, Fortinet, FedEx, Shriners. He's got a combined 19 under par in his last 2 appearances here, including 20th last year. Mitchell, he's also someone that, as we've said before, tends to play pretty well earlier in the year, 4th just a couple of years ago on this golf course. And Hubbard is also someone that's been 29 under par combined in his last 3 years at Pebble, including 4th with the big boys last year. And he's at 120-1. So those were some of the reasons why I went with those players. And the other players that I was thinking about but didn't pull the trigger on were Sam Burns. And as Jared said, I mean, Tom Hoge is someone that is also probably a no-brainer. You know, I'd throw a buck on him for crying out loud. He's 80-1 or something like that.
Yeah, I talked about that. You know, out of nowhere, I landed on him a few years ago when he won here at 66-1. And he is, you know, the skill set of Tom Hoge, I think, is a skill set that works really well at Pebble Beach. And that's a guy that is a tremendous ball striker and hits a lot of greens in regulation and can putt well. You know, that's a great starting point because I've talked about it. These greens are so small, they're hard to hit in regulation. So if you've got a guy that is really good at that, if that's a strength of his game, I think you're ahead of the field from the get-go. Then you throw in a guy that's a really good scrambler because you're going to miss these greens every now and then. And if you can get up and down on a consistent basis, that's another great skill set to have in your bag at this particular golf course. So yeah, Tom Hoge, if he keeps playing the way he has for his career, he's always going to make sense at Pebble Beach.
And by the way, in his last 4 years, he's got 3 top 15s, 2 top 5s, and a win at Pebble at 47 under par combined in those 4. Yeah. And he does rank number 1 in the Fantasy National Model for putting on this particular golf course.
Not surprised, man.
Yeah. So, okay. So that is going to wrap it up. Again, don't forget to check out our 2025 season preview special. That's also available here at Proline TV. Subscribe, like, and share. All that stuff is really cool and also very important for us to keep up our momentum of trying to bring in new viewers. And of course, we haven't even gotten into the meat of the season yet. Masters, the first major, and so forth and so on, which we talk all about, all of those majors and everything else. Really cool season preview special that you can check out. We'll have a link in the description of this video to make it easy for you to just click and watch. Probably also in the last seconds of this video, you probably see the pop up there. You could just make the transition over to that one. And also links in the description to find out exactly how to follow this gentleman, Brady Kannon, with all of his work, including his preview of this week's event over at golf.com. So, Brady, good having you on once again. And let's see if you can make it 3 out of 5 this year.
Hey, you're a part of the team too. Let's keep the winning ways going, no matter if it's you or myself, my friend.
It would be nice. Thanks a lot, Brady. And thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.